Donald Trump is ruining small U.S. businesses all across the country, right in front of all of us. The people who own these small businesses, you're not really hearing from them because they are literally drowning right now and trying to rescue themselves. But so many businesses have gone under. I personally know people who have small businesses and they did a lot of importing, and Trump's tariffs absolutely devastated them. Even when they got the money refunded back, the damage had already been done, and they're all shuttering their businesses. And the rest of you out there have cushy little jobs, and you think you're just fine, and you don't care about AI and all of this stuff that Trump has allowed to happen. But it's coming for you. Because if you work in information technology, you think, oh, I must be safe. Information technology, AI, artificial intelligence. No, not happening. If you do IT for companies, start looking for work. You're going to be replaced by AI. Almost everything is going to be replaced by AI. You know what's not going to be replaced by AI? Plumbers, electricians, roofers, realtors. It's too difficult. A machine can't do our job. Dentists, they are not going to be replaced because people will not want machines working on their teeth or robots. But here's Trump again trying to resurrect tariffs once again, trying to get around the Supreme Court's ruling that his tariffs were illegal. He admits it. This is just a long way around what the Supreme Court said he couldn't do. He is desperately trying to get these tariffs in place once again, which again will ruin another, who knows, hundreds of thousands of businesses across the country. He said the tariffs were going to help us. They're literally destroying us. Do your own research. Google it. Look it up everywhere. Look it up here on TikTok. Businesses are going under because of Trump's tariffs, and these new ones, they're going to do it way more than they did before. And I don't know if he's intentionally doing this, but you better watch out because they're coming for you.
When does the stupid stop? Somebody please tell me when this ends. Trump imposes new 50% tariff on many imports from Canada. What a great idea. And I thought we already took this to the Supreme Court, and Trump isn't allowed to do any of this. So what are we doing? Why do we keep replaying the same song over and over and over again? He's already been told that, yeah, you don't have the power just to throw on tariffs. So what are we doing? Why isn't there anyone in the White House to say, you know, Mr. Trump, how about you just chill out and don't worry about, we got a war to worry about, and you're worried about tariffs on Canada. Seriously? Seriously, you're worried about Canada. I just can't be, I cannot believe the level of stupid that is in this man's mind. But yeah, there it is, folks. Trump imposes 50% on Canada. Our good friends in Canada, yeah, we're going after them. Beyond stupid.
So Trump just put on new tariffs yesterday, and I want you guys to understand that this is quite literally the heist of the century. When Trump put these big tariffs on the first time, companies went and raised our prices as a result to cover for the extra price that goods cost them. Now, eventually, this was struck down by the Supreme Court, and all the companies that went and raised our prices got refund checks for the extra amount they paid for tariffs. Even though they had already raised our prices, they got a check back. But you know who didn't get a check? You went to the grocery store and paid more, but did you get a check back for the extra cost of the tariffs? Absolutely not. It was basically a free check to these companies, an excuse to raise your prices while they get that amount back on the back end. And so now that same scam is happening again. Trump put new tariffs in place, companies will raise your prices, and then when the courts go and strike the new tariffs down as illegal, they will get refund checks for all of this stuff. It is a transfer of your money to the richest companies on earth, and it's a racket that they can do over and over and over again. Call it for what it is, the heist of the century, honestly, the greatest robbery ever perpetuated across the American people.
Donald Trump last night announced brand new tariffs on 60 countries, covering 99% of American imports. His justification for them is completely wild, and the person really paying them is probably the American consumer. And that's what we're breaking down today. Hi, my name's Henry. I'm a former wealth manager and economist, now based in Switzerland. Now, after Donnie's last set of tariffs was struck down by the Supreme Court, stating that the emergency powers of the president do not give him the authority to implement tariffs on other nations, a 150-day clock started until he might have to pay back nearly $170 billion in collected tariffs. But now he's come up with a new methodology through a different authority to apply basically the same tariffs. The trade representative of the United States last week just said that the authority may have changed, but the strategy hasn't. So we can clearly see what's happening here. The new tariff rate ranges, but it starts at 10%, goes up to 12.5%, and extends further from there. The UK, Canada, and the EU are all at 10%. The justification for the new tariffs is based on combating modern slavery and forced labor.
Alright guys, I'll be reading out something for you guys here regarding Trump imposing new 50% tariff on many imports from Canada. So on the 20th of July 2026, Donald Trump announced new 50% tariff on many Canadian imports. The tariffs are expected to take effect in August, that is next month. In fact, that is in the next few days. And targets a wide range of Canadian products: wine, alcohol, dairy products, cement, equipment, and so many things. Like, this is literally what we use, household items, what you as a middle class person is making use of in your home. That is exactly the exact product that is being targeted. Now, this is why Trump did this. Trump administration says that Canada has treated US businesses unfairly in areas such as daily trade, alcohol sales, automobile policies. So, the big deal here is this. Every day, billions of dollars worth of goods across the border. That is, the United States and Canada have one of the largest trading relationships in the world. Every day, thousands of businesses depend on cross-border supply chains. Millions of jobs are linked directly or indirectly to US-Canada trade. You guys, this is exactly what Donald Trump means by what he's doing. But who is going to suffer it at last? That is the question. Keep watching, guys.
Which seems like an odd hill to die on, given how America currently operates. The Forced Labor Convention was ratified in 1930 through the International Labour Organization. It was ratified by 179 countries. 8 chose to opt out, and America opted out. And the definition of forced labor by the convention is this: work exacted under the menace of a penalty which the person has not offered themselves voluntarily. Right. Let's take a minor detour and take a look at American prisons. 76% of incarcerated persons in the United States, as surveyed by the Bureau of Justice Statistics Department, are saying that they are forced to work. Otherwise, they face the risk of additional punishment, including solitary confinement and no ability to have their sentences reduced in length. Now, for these workers in American prisons, the pay scale ranges from 0 up to about 50 cents per hour. And annually they produce about $11 billion worth of goods and services for the United States. So let's just go through this irony then. The United States is applying tariffs to the rest of the world based on the idea it's trying to combat forced labor. Meanwhile, within its own prisons, it runs what is, in essence, slavery. People who are not compensated whatsoever and are forced to work under the threat of punishment. I think anyone with 2 brain cells could see that's a little bit hypocritical, is it not, Donnie? Second part. Who's paying the tariffs? Well, these tariffs are paid by the importer once they are being imported into the United States. They're not charged to a foreign government, and they're not charged to a foreign company. It's the importer. In a review by the New York Fed in February of this year, they showed that the majority of this cost push is being translated onto American consumers and American businesses. A study on over 25 million shipments into the United States calculated that the share that was absorbed by the foreign exporter was about 4%. Now, the interesting part is how this has changed over time. In mid-2025, it was a little bit different. In mid-2025, the importers themselves were absorbing about 64% of this additional tariff cost in compressed margins and reduced profits, and American consumers were absorbing 22% in the form of higher prices. However, by October of that same year, the importers were only absorbing 27% and passing over 55% of this additional cost to the American consumer. In short, tariffs are just an additional cost on you. Third part, the entire point of these tariffs were for Donald Trump's aim to make manufacturing in America great again. So let's take a look at what happened there. On a first glance, the output from American manufacturers is doing fine. The PMI has been holding steady above 50 for about 6 months now. However, when you break it down, manufacturing in the United States is really not that rosy. If you look at the manufacturing employment, it peaked in 2023 and has been declining ever since. US manufacturing has actually lost 300,000 jobs since 2023. Now, the last part is a little bit confusing, but stick with me while I explain it. Now, if you look at manufacturing construction in the United States, in the last 2 years, it has gone exponential. It looks massive. And this would be the normal argument of any economist who likes protectionist trade policy. It takes a bit of time to actually build the factories, and so look at the construction. They must be building the factories, right? And once the factories are built, maybe the jobs will come, and then after that time, you'll see in the medium term or the long term that this will actually be positive. That would be a valid point if you don't look any further into what's actually being built in this manufacturing construction boom. For some context, here's the total domestic investment into the manufacture and construction of data centers in the United States. How many jobs do you think data centers provide, really? And so yes, if you looked at the original manufacturing construction index without understanding that, you'd say, oh my god, maybe the tariffs might be working in the next 5 years. No mate, I think you're just getting a few more data centers, let's be real. In conclusion, Donald Trump has used a new measure to get through his same tariffs that are mostly paid by you, the consumer, in higher prices and higher costs. He's implemented these tariffs under the label of forced labor. Meanwhile, his state has nearly 800,000 people who are engaged in forced labor, as reported by the state, who generate $11 billion in goods annually. When you realize this policy sucks and is mostly hurting the American consumer, he will point at the manufacturing construction index and say, the factories are coming, trust me. The factories aren't coming, they are data centers, it would seem. Economists don't often get to give a single answer on things. There's a joke even about FDR, that he wanted a one-handed economist, because they always say, well, on the one hand, and well, on the other. But on this one, nearly any economist who's ever graduated anywhere with any credential in anything will tell you that this policy is stupid. It's also really annoyingly hypocritical and weird.
Special credit to all the original owners of the videos used in the creation of this video. Now, this is the impact that this is going to do on the poor masses out there. Higher prices in shops, rising cost of living, job losses in some industries, lower purchasing power. Farmers and exporters can also suffer. This particular decision Trump's administration took is going to affect the poor masses in a very, very big way, in a very, very large way. I think I support the person, that man that said that this is sheer wickedness, because if it's not wickedness, why would Trump even think towards that direction? Why would Trump even have a thought towards that? Is it what he should be thinking right now? Is it the best way to better the lives of the citizens and residents of the US? That is the question. This is more than a dispute about Canada. It reflects a Trump administration broader strategy of using tariffs as leverage to reshape trade relationships and encourage domestic production. Okay. Whether that strategy delivers long-term economic benefits or mainly raises costs for businesses and consumers will depend on how companies, consumers, and trading partners respond over the coming months. This isn't just a US-Canada story. It could affect prices, jobs, businesses, and global trade. If these tariffs remain in place, the economic impact could be felt far beyond North America. The big question now is, will Canada fight back, or will both countries return to the negotiating table? That is the question. But before the question, the poor will definitely going to suffer this. Yes. MAGA have been crying, non-MAGAs have been crying, people have been screaming, residents and non-residents are screaming and feeling for US residents and citizens of that location. Yes. Another one is still being added on top of it. This news Trump just made it public a few days back. Tell me what you think in the comment section. Are you team supporting what Trump said or did, or are you against that? Tell us in the comment section. I would really, really love to hear from you all. Remember to subscribe to this channel, like this video, and see you all in our next video. Till then.